Well, hey everybody, it's the crew from Vote Common Good, and we're here to give you a little post-debate commentary. Try to find some common goodness in what we just witnessed. I'm Dan Deitrich. We've got Doug Pagitt and Robb Ryerse, and let's dive in. First impressions. What you guys feel like your faces are telling me a lot?
Disaster.
Disaster. In a word. Disaster.
Rob, you got a word? You got a first?
Well, I said I wasn't going to drink.
You're going to drink. Like, okay. I thought Trump wasn't even going to show up. He did. Dan, you'd wondered if he was going to walk off.
He didn't walk off. He stayed.
He walked all over Biden in the first few minutes of that thing. It was real tough.
Yeah.
Rob?
I mean, what we saw here was the worst, the worst of both of these candidates.
Yeah.
We saw Donald Trump unable to say anything remotely truthful. I mean, it was constant lies, one right after another. And that's the worst of Donald Trump. And at the same time, we saw the worst of Joe Biden, which was he is an old man who struggles to communicate at times. His stutter came out several times during the debate. And though he is tremendously competent, he cannot communicate that competency in a way that makes people feel good about supporting him. Mm-hmm. What we saw was the worst in both of them.
I tried to take some notes during this so I could share them with you. I'll share with you my notes that I put together. There's simply two words on there, which was deal dash. Presidential debate brought to you by a scam website called Deal Dash. Because at some point I just put my pen down and I was just like, this is it. This is what we got. These two guys. And look, I'm a Joe Biden booster and supporter. I am a Donald Trump opponent. But this is what America has. Now, I'm not doing the third party complain we need better. I'm just recognizing, which I hope a lot of us are, this is a situation we find ourselves in. We have decided in this country to invest an enormous amount in what we call the presidency of the United States. Actual power, perceived power, perception, all kinds of stuff. One of my friends sent me a text that basically said, we have a mumbler and a liar.
Yep.
That's a shorthand way, I think, for what you were saying, Rob, of what it feels like. That doesn't make us feel very good.
Right.
Right. And we will all do our thing about which would you rather have. But it starts to feel like, and I'm going to spend my time, if Joe Biden is the nominee on the ballot in November, traveling the country trying to ask people to vote for him. But if this doesn't get better somehow, then would you rather, slide down a razor banister or be attacked by sharks? Then that's a real problem. The other thing here, and Dan, I know you're going to have a word, and I want to hear it. Normally, people go into a debate, and what they want to do is make a story, tell a story of America. With neither of these guys did we get a story. We got a series of bold or bald-faced lies, whichever phrase you like, from Donald Trump. Greatest being, I don't know if it's I didn't have sex with a porn star or I just won 2 club championships, golf club championships, but and then continual hatred against immigrants.
Yeah.
And then you have Joe Biden giving us lists of 1, 2s, and 3s. I don't know how he was coached. I don't think Donald Trump was. I think Donald Trump basically did a stump speech. But if Biden thinks the best thing to do is not to tell a story of America and who we are. Well, I mean, where's old Joe telling us this is America? Why? Play the hits, man. Play the hits.
Yeah, and Joe seemed defensive, even with the pretty softball questions. Like, what do you tell black voters that are feeling a little disenfranchised right now? And he basically said, "Oh, things are great for you. Don't complain." And that's just not what you say to people who are suffering and struggling. And it just felt like, Joe was on his back foot playing defensively, and it wasn't working. And then it just evolved into like arguing about golf. Like, that was embarrassing for both. Like, that's embarrassing for America that these are our best two people we put forward to run the country, and they're arguing about their backswing.
Yeah. There was a number of themes in Trump's that Trump wanted to get across. One of them certainly was immigration related. Every answer he gave came back to immigration.
Yeah.
Immigration. Asked about opioids, immigration. Asked about childcare, immigration. Asked about January 6th, immigration. Everything came back to immigration. The other thing he said repeatedly, that what happened in Afghanistan was the most embarrassing moment in our country's history, which, yes, the optics of that were bad, and wow, you know nothing about American history.
We've got a strong list of embarrassing things we've done as a country.
Yeah. And and then the other thing, he basically accused Joe Biden of killing a lot of people, killing people at the border, killing people through COVID, killing people, killing black families and black people, killing Ukrainians. I mean, he laid out that Joe Biden is, a cold-blooded killer, which was humorous, when you take a look at the guy standing next to him, who could not put together a coherent narrative.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to get through a number of facts.
Mm-hmm.
A presidential debate is not a State of the Union address. State of the Union address, you get up, you talk about, this is what we did, this is what we want to do, and you go down through your laundry list of policies. That's fine for a State of the Union, though I think, a good president would, a clever president would think of a different way to handle even the State of the Union. But listing policy position or achievements in one, first, second, third, 1, 2, 3, over and over and over again. He would get lost in those facts. He struggled with the numbers. He would say thousands and millions and millions and billions and billions and trillions. And it seemed like every time he set himself up to fail through the approach that he took, instead of giving us a narrative about how America is stronger, is growing, is in a better, certainly not where we need to be, but moving in the right direction as the result of his presidency compared to where we were 4 years ago under Donald Trump. And it was not good. It was not good.
Look, and I agree. I 100% agree. I also think they know, and I would agree with this, if this is what they know, meaning the Biden team, that this is not an election about, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? This is not an election about the story of America. I think they've figured out this is an election about, can people tolerate Donald Trump or not? So I do think there's something different about this election. Normally, an election like this is a referendum on the sitting, president, the person in office. Yep. This is really a referendum on Donald Trump. So many people's question is, there's no way I'm going to vote for that guy, or I think I'm going to be willing to vote for that guy. And they're not saying that about Biden. They're saying it about Trump. So I do think there might be something, and I think he had in his head, go after him, or he just decided, because it got better. Frankly, I think it got much better after the first commercial break and after Biden got a little feisty. And then he came out and it got personal. And I don't know what the headspace they were in or what producers or people were telling them, like, there's no audience, walk out and be somber. But they both walked out like they were in a funeral pyre.
The very first thing I wrote in my notes was, could someone smile?
Yes, exactly
Like,
what I was going to say. Yes.
Yeah,
They
that was
should've
the
walked
weakest wink and a gun I've ever seen from Joe. That was. Did you
I'm
see
proud
this?
to be president.
Yeah.
And a
No
smile.
greeting. Yeah, they didn't greet each other.
Nope.
The disdain and the contempt that they have for one another is very, very clear. And I don't think that appeals to the best instincts in Americans. When you've got, listen, I'm not Pollyanna in thinking that we have had, presidential candidates running against each other who, are actually friends. They're just, they're just putting on the show of what they've got to do. These are two men who genuinely don't like each other.
Yes.
And that was very clear. When when Biden tried to talk about Trump's weight and got confused about how much he weighs or says he weighs.
Yeah.
I mean, it just was the name calling, the, arguing about who's the worst president in the history. That you don't win a presidential election by convincing the American people you're the second worst president in the history of the country.
I don't know. This is where we'll find ourselves. I know the old rules. The old rules are off. I don't know.
Okay,
because,
listen. I want to bottom line this.
Okay.
Joe Biden needs to step aside.
I sent a text to a bunch of you that said, I wonder if Gavin Newsom is on an airplane to Washington right now. And that was 4 minutes into the debate.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's rushing to the airport in Sacramento.
Listen, I worked I say that Joe Biden was not my choice for president in 2020. He was not my first choice, not my second choice, not my third or fourth choice. But when he became the Democratic nominee against Donald Trump, I could name 4 people I would choose ahead of him. When he became the Democratic nominee for president,
he did vote 4 times.
There was that fraud. When he became the Democratic nominee to face Donald Trump, I committed to do everything I possibly could to get him elected. And I've said that I never dreamed I would work so hard to get a president elected that I barely want to be president. And that is my attitude again now for this election. If Joe Biden is the Democratic nominee, I will work as hard as I possibly can to get him reelected, because he's a kind and competent person who struggles to communicate. I think he's too old to be president, but the alternative is so abhorrent. It's an existential threat to the country. It's an existential threat to, as Doug likes to say, the planet and everything that lives on it. And I think that, I will do everything I can to get him reelected. However, he needs to step aside. We are 6 weeks away from the Democratic convention. Let Kamala Harris and Joe and Gavin Newsom and Dean Phillips and anybody else who would like to jump into it, let them hash it out at the convention. For the good of the country, Joe Biden needs to step aside.
I think there's so many people that wish he would. It's really his race to lose. Like, he's doing everything in his power to lose this race, where a different candidate that was an incumbent wouldn't be having these problems.
It's really a problem.
Yeah.
The age, and not every aged person presents age in the same way.
Right.
Joe Biden's presentation of the skills that it requires to do the myriad things to be the president were not sharp tonight. And this was a chance. Now, I also thought earlier, is it possible that the reason that the Biden campaign really wanted this debate to be the earliest in history was to vet how this was going to go, to give some time for this very thing that you're discussing? Okay, so I don't know, of course.
Yeah.
What do I know? That if that's the case, cheers on that one. Like, hey, we're going to field test this thing in real time and see how this goes. And maybe they've had the conversation with President Biden about this. Let's see how it goes. If there are honest brokers around him right now, David Axelrod, Barack Obama are calling, that some of these people are engaging in this. And I think if Biden comes to the conclusion that his health, his way of being does not demonstrate strength for this election, he'll do something about it. I just don't. I mean, we're going to burn now months of energy on should Biden step down or not, unless he does it fast.
And
because if he doesn't do it, people are going to keep saying it up until whatever point the ballots are being printed. You know what I'm getting at? It's not as if, we're all going to, it's not as if it's going to be like in 2020 when it's like, hey, okay, the convention's come, it's gone. This is the nominee. It's all locked in. That's that. Let's roll. That's not how this is going to go. This question will not leave.
And there doesn't seem to be a way out of it. Like, he had a great State of the Union. It was so good, in fact, that people accused him of taking performance-enhancing drugs.
He did not take those tonight.
It could have used some.
He thought UA afterward, apparently, right?
But there's not a chance really until September before he's scheduled to debate again, before he can show, oh, that was just an off night. Here's the real Joe. It's too late. That's months down the road. And this is sealed in people's mind. The sound bites, even if people didn't watch the debate, there's so many clips that will be replayed of him stumbling over his words, and it's rough.
Yeah, it's a problem. Okay, so let's set aside the step down thing, can we? Because I don't know. We can just burn a lot of this conversation.
Yeah, it's I refuse to answer a hypothetical.
On the performance itself, when Biden got feisty and started taking it a little more personal, I kind of liked it. I didn't like the golf thing. The fact that Joe Biden said when I came in as vice president I had an 8 handicap, and by the time I was out I had a 6, means you spent your time really working on your golf game. And I don't think that's anything to brag about. It's really hard to drop 2 strokes on a handicap. I can promise you. You have to put up a lot of scores for that to happen. So he played a lot of golf. So setting all that aside, the fact that he went after Trump being a criminal, I liked. The fact that he said you are a whiner and you lost and something broke in you when you lost the last time. I appreciated that. I felt like he was then speaking on behalf of America. So I liked all that. I liked the feisty stuff. I didn't like the lists. I thought Trump really got an upper hand when he referred to President Biden as Joe. I thought that turn of a phrase from Trump toward Biden put Trump in a position of relational lecturing of Biden. Like in the first in 2020 when Biden said, "Come on, man." When he did the "Come on, man" line, that really seemed to be like he had him, he pinned him there. And when he 3 different times when he said, "Joe, you did this and this, and you're not a bad guy, you just don't know what's going on," like that stuff.
Yeah,
damn, that works. And Biden had almost none of that, other than the like, this guy's lying. And he's unfit because of his inability to love and care for America. I thought that was pretty good. But man, Biden just couldn't pivot it from a statement to Trump to a statement to the American people and say, if you still love America, I want you in this campaign. This guy down talking America. If you don't want to down talk America, stick with us and join it. Like so many things that should have been said, and none of them were there. So it's just it's gonna rip through my head all night long.
Yeah, and there were a number people that watch our regular podcast and you guys know that I say a lot that, it's a bad move to blame voters.
Yeah.
And you can't blame voters. And the president repeatedly did that tonight.
Yeah.
When asked about, are the tens of millions of people that are going to vote for Donald Trump, do they
blew it.
want to ruin democracy? Yep. And he was like, the more they know, yes. The more they know about this guy, yes. He blamed voters. He blamed voters with black families not understanding what he had done a number of different times. The burden is on you to make the case of why you deserve a second term, and you can't put it back on the American people. He didn't invite the American people in. He blamed them at times, and it wasn't a good look.
Yeah.
He
Robb,
said, I want your vote. Vote for me.
Robb, a lot of times you tell candidates, like, you have to make the voters the hero of the narrative.
Yeah.
And Biden didn't do that. Trump, of course, didn't do that either, but we didn't expect that of him. Yeah. Trump is always the hero of the Trump narrative. Yeah. He's the savior, the hero.
Yeah. That savior thing, what I thought was really interesting, it was clear that the retribution line, he was prepared for that.
Yeah.
He was prepared to be hit on the retribution thing, and Biden hit him on it. But his line, my retribution is going to be success. I thought that was a good
solid
attempt
line
to change the subject. I thought when asked about January 6th, I can't believe I'm talking about what Trump did well.
Well, he avoided answering the question.
When he said on January 6th this, on January 6th this. Now, I disagreed with everything he said, but he successfully changed changed the conversation. There was one point, I can't remember exactly what he was asked about. I'm looking at my notes, seeing if I can find it. When he was asked about something. Oh, he was asked about January 6th, whether he violated his oath of office. Mm-hmm. And he totally just rejected the premise of the question, which is exactly what we teach politicians to do. If you get asked a question in a debate that you don't like, that you don't want to answer, reject the premise of the question and talk about the things that you wanted to do. Donald Trump was able to successfully do that a number of times during this debate. And that really shone through in comparison to what the president was able to do.
Yeah, very much. But those are questions the American people actually have, and by not answering them, they go away. And when he was asked repeatedly about January 6th, when he was asked would he support this election, and he wouldn't answer, doesn't resolve that. But again, the question here is not, are Trump supporters going to leave him? The question is, where do independents go? Yeah. There's roughly 30 to 50, 100,000 people in each of 5 states for whom this is going to make they're going to make this decision. That's Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, maybe Nevada, if Michigan ultimately goes blue as hard as it looks like it could. Those are the places where this thing is, because of our electoral college, where the decision is going to be made. I think we could be facing in this election a historically low voter turnout, where 2020 there was a historically high voter turnout because of COVID and because of access and because of what was at risk. This one could be seriously demotivating for both of them, or third-party candidates could grab some high percentage because people feel that votes are not tools. They think that they're personal expressions, like an Instagram post. It's my snarky way of saying, your vote is not your way to express what you would want. Your vote is your way to use the one tool you have to make a selection for a candidate. No one knows who you're voting for. You're not making a statement to a screen reader. The thing that reads your ballot or reads it on your computer screen when you're in a voting booth, it doesn't know what you're saying. You're not saying anything. Just use your vote for input and outcome, not for personal expression. I mean, make a social media post or Start a YouTube channel for that. But use your vote for the way it's going to be used. But a lot of people don't think about it that way, and they may not turn out. So when we're back to a situation where both candidates are undesirable, we could be in a 2016 situation where then both candidates were disliked. Donald Trump was disliked and Hillary Clinton was disliked. I liked her. I've met her personally, and I like her personally. But most people don't, to be blunt about it. And that is a problem here, that we could have very low turnout and very low apathy. And the way that thing went tonight, both of them standing there like grumpy old men and walking out slow and just standing there at the end, like not produced well, CNN, right? You didn't have to have them walking out at all. Like you could have produced this thing with a little bit more pizzazz. Having said that, I ran my own little timer on lots of the questions. I want to say nearly all of them. They both stayed within time. Shockingly. Yeah. Didn't overtalk the timer. Didn't answer the question, especially Trump. I mean, Biden played by the rules too much. He stopped in mid-sentence. I
was going to say, Biden looked relieved when they told him he had to stop talking. Like,
hey, Pappy, you got 40 more seconds. Do you want to use those to talk to the American people?
No, I'm good.
Incredible, right? There's like, no, that's enough said. Enough said. A man of few words. And Joe Biden, by the way, not a man of few words. For people who know him personally, they're like, that guy, real talker. So he is probably keeping himself on par. So to me, that was the feel of the entire thing. It was hard to understand and follow Joe Biden and what he was saying through the entire 2 minutes or 1 minute, frankly. And I was like wanting to agree with him. I would have liked for him to push back on Donald Trump because Donald Trump was not using immigration. Donald Trump was blaming immigrants.
Yes.
He was speaking about people who've come to this country and saying things that are blatantly untrue about them. And I wish Biden, and one line he gave about migrants make America great thing. I wish he had pushed back harder on that, but you had one guy very hard to follow and the other guy, no reason to follow him because the things he was saying were just utter nonsense. But to my Trump friend who was texting me during it, he's like, everything Trump is saying is absolutely true. And Joe Biden is the biggest liar. Like that, there's a whole world of that out there. And those people are going to be fired up. Like for all the podcasts and all the live streams that are going on right now about this debate, the people that are supporting Trump, they are through the roof. Couldn't have gone better for them.
Yeah. And my question is, it seems like anecdotally, this is the first time that most people are paying attention to the race. I've got a lot of friends that texted me knowing that I do this work like, hey, you going to watch the debate? Like, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were even interested in what's going on. And it seems like a lot of people are just now tuning in, and this is their first impression since maybe, 2020 of these two talking. What do you think those people are taking away from this? They haven't been tuned in. They've caught some headlines, but this is their first time sitting down and watching these two guys talk at length. What are they taking away?
I think they take away what Rob said earlier, which is Biden shouldn't be still he shouldn't ask for a refill on this job. Just say thank you for the chance to serve as your president and step aside. I would just imagine that's what most people are thinking. And then if they get down the road and they're like, well, look, we're going to buy the used car or we're going to buy the stinky car. Let's just buy the used car. I don't know. That's as far as I can get on how somebody who doesn't pay attention sees this, or just like, what are they talking about?
Yeah. The question becomes is, are people, are voters susceptible to Trump's lies? Because, I mean, Donald Trump said very few things that were true, from lowering the price of insulin to
the cleanest air, the cleanest water. That
we had H2O when he was president. That was true. He said that. So we had H2O.
We had H2O.
Which that is true. We did have H2O when he was president. But I mean, he repeatedly, like everything he said was not true. I mean, it wasn't. It just was not true. And so the question becomes is like, are people susceptible to those lies? Are people willing to say like, well, he's kind of making some sense. Maybe it wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think that the Trump presidency, particularly the way COVID happened, put the country through so much trauma that the trauma that people experienced in 2019 and 2020 was so great that that I think that it is
Is that all of us?
to the lies presidency. And I think that would be the case, but man, yeah. So in terms of like the first impressions, I mean, right out of the gate, like, I mean, people make decisions quickly and first impressions get cemented.
Mm-hmm.
And the first impressions from Joe Biden were his voice was weak. He looked and sounded frail.
Yes.
And Donald Trump is only 3 years younger than Joe Biden, but appeared much younger than him in this debate.
He looked like Joe Biden 3 years ago.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day who reminded me of that kind of old adage that the presidency ages you.
Mm-hmm.
You see like Obama came into the presidency young and fit and vibrant, and he left with gray hair.
Yeah.
Same thing with Bill Clinton, not so much fit, but he left with gray hair. George W. Bush left with gray hair. Joe Biden came into his presidency already old. And if the presidency ages you, he might be 82, but boy, he seems like an old 82.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, there are 3-year periods in human development that make more difference than some 3 years. The difference between 45 and 48 for a lot of people, indistinguishable. The difference between 12 and 15, pretty big. The difference between 2 and 5, massive. The difference between 80 and 83 on a lot of people, that's closer to being 12 to 15 or, 2 to 5. It can just start to show up in different ways. And there's no doubt that with Joe Biden's body, the last 3 years or 4 years, almost since a lot of us really saw him, starting on the campaign, he changed a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a significant change in his look and demeanor and jaw and gait and everything else. Okay, so they've got to fully own that.
Yep.
And when Joe Biden was asked that question, his answer was basically, look at what I've done.
No, his answer was computer chips. He was asked about his age, because I wrote this down.
Yeah.
He was asked about his age, and he began by saying he was 3 years, or that his opponent was 3 years younger than him and a lot less competent, which I thought was a good line. Then he transitioned into talking about how computer chips and computer chips, and
and then stopped, and she said, Dana Bash said, "You have 30 or 40 more seconds."
Yeah.
And then
listen.
Didn't remember that he was talking about the age. That's a real problem.
Yeah.
Like
I'm not trying to be hard on
you don't off as younger by referencing computer chips. Like, it sounds like an old person trying to talk about something that would be of interest to young people. Young people don't talk about computer. If he had mentioned blockchain, now that might have been something. Like, wait a minute.
Or if he had taken this opportunity to drop some NFTs.
Exactly. Like that would have been, maybe a sneaker line or something like that. That would have been something.
Really showing he's in touch with the youth.
Oh my goodness. I mean, ultimately what this comes down to is Joe Biden told the truth.
Yes.
He accurately represented his presidency. He failed at times to show empathy in ways that surprised me, because he strikes me as a very empathetic person, and there were times where he was teed up to be empathetic and he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it best when he was a little bit feisty.
Yeah.
I didn't like it when it got personal, though. And he was old.
Yeah.
And you compare that with Donald Trump, who simply didn't tell the truth. He lied about everything.
Yeah.
Every single thing. He didn't have a record that he could defend because the country was in terrible shape. When Joe Biden said, there was no inflation because the economy was on its back. That was, I thought, one of his best lines because he was absolutely true. That was absolutely the case. And he made such a mess of COVID. He made such a mess of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it ultimately comes down to do you want, this is we're circling back to the would you rather question of okay, there's an old man who's honest and, doing his best, and he isn't going to always communicate real clearly, but I trust him generally.
Yeah.
Boy,
and I think
I hated his answers about Israel. But there's I've got some serious disagreements with him on policy.
Yeah.
But by and large, I think he's got the country's best interest in mind, and he's doing the best he can. Do you want that, or do you want a narcissist who can't tell the truth and is in it just for himself?
Yeah, I think the choice is still clear to most people. And unfortunately, I think it comes back to this, would you rather not, worst, one slightly less worse, but who do you want? What team do you want in all these positions around the president?
Yeah.
And Trump has shown that he puts together the worst, most corrupt team. And
he has to fire and then won't support.
Either he has to fire them or they quit because the adults in the room realize that he's incompetent and a menace. It's just. But Biden has shown that he puts competent people in these positions that can get things done, and he's accomplished a lot. He's accomplished the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act. He's done so many. Yeah, he's done so much, and that is good for everybody. But he couldn't turn that into a narrative that's about everybody.
He did not say the word infrastructure. He did not talk about CHIP. He did not talk about the student loan reductions that he's done. He didn't talk about that stuff at all. Real significant things that make a difference in people's lives. I thought one of the really good lines that he had is when he cited that statistic. It's not a statistic, but the reality that 40 of Donald Trump's 44 cabinet members refused to endorse him.
Yeah, that was strong.
Really strong. And he said, these are the people that know him best, that worked with him, know him best, and they don't want him to be president again. There should have been an overall narrative that you tell over and over and over again, that this is a person who's not fit to be president, and here's why.
And Trump came prepared with that narrative. I hated the narrative, and it's false. Yes. But he said, I'm going to hammer this point because it works. Yeah. And he did it repeatedly. And Joe Biden basically conceded that ground. He's like, look, we actually did a lot of stuff to. Yeah.
And we've seen Democrats do that, and it's been a frustration to us to completely cede the whole argument about immigration. It just turned have granted the premise of the question to Republicans. And as a result, have just get hammered on an issue that is just it's so frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're just joining us on YouTube, Twitter, all the places, thanks for joining us. And if you're not familiar with our work, we're Vote Common Good, and we do a ton of work around immigration and border policy reform. We've been trying to convince Democrats as well as Republicans that we can and should do better when it comes to our immigration policies. And you can check out a lot of our work on votecommongood.com to get caught up.
Yeah, and our work is to do what we can to help faith voters know they don't have to vote for Donald Trump. It makes it a lot easier if they have somebody else they could vote for, like someone like Joe Biden. This makes our work tougher. But we're going to be out there doing everything we can to be sure Donald Trump is not the next president of the United States. Truly believe in my heart of hearts, and as an organization, we hold an opinion that Donald Trump really is a hazard to the well-being of the planet, everyone who lives on it. He cannot and should not be president of the United States. The people who know him best and work most closely with him also say those things. He should not be the president of the United States. We have a very bizarre system in this country for how someone becomes the president of the United States. We're all going to have to get busy working on it. Biden's going to have to make his own call. The rest of us have to get out and do what we're going to do. And basically 50% of the voting population is going to vote for Republican, 50% is going to vote for a Democrat. And then there's going to be a little bit of squish in there. Someone's going to go 47, someone's going to go 52. That's how it's going to happen. Cannot have the Democratic nominee, Biden or anyone else, be at the 47. That's work that happens. That's the work that we do. We'd love for you to follow us and pay attention to that work, or join us when we do it. In just a couple of weeks, right after the 4th of July, we're going to be in North Carolina. Then we're going to be in Wisconsin, and we're going to be then in Michigan and Pennsylvania. We're going to be working in these places. And our job is all going to be harder. And that means a lot for the three of us and all the people in our Common Good working crew. The job just got tougher.
Yeah. I'd love to react to some of the things that have been said in the comments. Barbara had a statement that he has a bad cold, and I'm seeing online that there are NBC has reported that Biden had a bad cold. And that the Biden camp essentially now is trying to put out the spin that, his performance in part was because he had a bad cold. I just say parenthetically, Trump showed up to a debate with COVID. At least, I don't know. But I'm curious your thoughts about will that defense of Biden, that not an excuse, but the reason for his performance being the way it was because he had, health issues with a cold. Does that make a difference here?
No.
Okay.
And here's why. Okay. Because if getting a cold makes it hard for you to do your job, that's a problem. Yikes. His job tonight was to stand in front of the American people as the president of the United States and do what a president does. If you're going to now, if all they were trying to say was, the reason his voice was a little grovelly was because he has a cold. Okay, that's the voice thing. But not I had a bad night because I had a cold. If they do that, that plays right into the idea that someone's frail and can't do their job.
Yes.
If they get a cold.
A cold is a minor enough thing that it shouldn't inhibit your ability to do a job. Okay, so Tim asked, did he really call Joe Brandon? Did you hear this? Did either of you catch this? When he was, because I made a note of it, when the question was about border control, and they were talking about, because Biden said that he said the border control endorsed me. Well, they endorsed my plan. And then, Trump made a retort about how he had been endorsed by border control. And then he said, Brandon, just speak to them. Did you catch that?
I missed it. No,
I'll
have to go back.
I caught him calling him Brandon.
Yeah, I guess I didn't hear it, but that just sounds like a thing that Trump slipped on, unless somehow he's he was trying to be cute. I just don't see Donald Trump being sassy or cute or playing into the Brandon thing, but maybe I don't know. Do you think it matters?
I don't know. I just thought it was kind of. I was like, wow, I can't believe you went there. Edward asked
when Biden called him that he's not 6'4" and 215 pounds and made a fat joke. I think that was
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah, and Trump's response was, "Let's not act like children."
Trump taking the high road. You know you've
Yeah.
Not act like
you've
children?
messed up.
Yeah. Trump had a line that, like, it's like, "Let's not act like children," and Biden replied, "You're the child." Yeah. So
It was like a elementary
comment-
school
yeah.
playground argument toward the end
Who
there.
can hit the ball? Can you hit a ball 50 yards? I can hit a ball 50 yards. I mean, it won't be straight, but I can hit it 50 yards. Another question from Edward, or a comment from Edward. What do you think about this? Edward says, honestly, I think I just witnessed the end of democracy in America tonight. Disinformation and misinformation prevailed tonight. Maybe we need to seriously consider a brokered DNC convention. We've talked about that already. What do you think about this idea? Did we witness the end of democracy tonight?
No.
I mean, I felt that for a moment, like I was sad, like I was witnessing that. But I don't think it really is. No.
No, I don't think so. I think Donald Trump is a hazard to the planet. Everyone who lives on it should not be president of the United States. Democracy will be harmed, but it won't be over no matter who's elected. That is overstatement in my view. It's rhetorical overstatement, but it will damage the country in a way that it should not be damaged, and it will damage people's lives. We have seen functional democracy in the United States damage the world and damage people. So we don't have to lose democracy for the damage to be done. The election of Donald Trump would be catastrophic in issues that matter to me and maybe matter to other people watching. To other people, the things that it's going to destroy, they don't care. Those are not things that they're bothered by. This is the difference we have in America. There are some people who are like, those things really matter to me, and I can see it being a real problem. Other people, they don't particularly find it to be a problem. So I don't think democracy is going to end. The problem with the brokered convention is that unless Kamala Harris decides not to be in the if Joe Biden fever dream, if Joe Biden decides not to run, unless Kamala Harris says me either, it's going to be Kamala Harris. There is no other means by which the Democratic superstructure of a brokered convention is not going to pick the sitting vice president. So that is going to be
theoretically they could, but you're saying they won't.
Yes, I'm saying that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So
I do think
from Tony.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
Well, I was just going to get back to Edward's point that disinformation and misinformation prevailed tonight. I do think that's one of the scarier things about this is unless you're watching a channel or a stream that's live fact checking all of Trump's statements, it's just like a fire hose of lies. And some of those soak in. You know, you don't have time to fact check every crazy thing he says. And that's the strategy.
You think he can't be lying about everything. Right? But he was. Okay, so Tony makes this comment that EJ Dion it made a good point as usual. While it's inevitable that there will be talk about Biden's performance, which is what we spent a lot of time talking about, Trump's utter torrent of nonstop lies needs to be the topic of media conversation as well. Listen, I know there's a lot of blame the media that happens on both sides, and everything boils down to how stuff is covered in the media, and both sides love to blame the media. What do you think is going to be the narrative coming out of? So you think back to previous debates. You think George W. Bush looked at his watch while Bill Clinton was interacting with people in the audience at that debate, and that image, totally solidified as the narrative of that debate. Al Gore sighed a lot while George W. Bush answered questions, and that became the narrative about that debate. What is the narrative about this debate? Is it Joe Biden's old? or is it Trump lied?
Joe Biden's old.
I think so too.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that they had that needed to be knocked off was the feeling people had that Joe Biden wouldn't be up for the job. That was the reason that the people who were connected to the campaign were floating why they wanted this early. They wanted to knock that pin down and move on to re-election.
Does this
Not happen.
yeah. Does this do we blame the media for talking about that, for that becoming the narrative about this debate?
I think that would be ill-advised. People who just look at Joe Biden, people that I know who just glance, they're just like, wow, he seems really old.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
what that means will be different things to different people. But he needed to own it. He needed to grab a hold of it. And I even thought he would come out and say something like, hey, it's really great, it's great to be here. It's it's good to still be up at this hour. Something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
past my
Yeah, just-
bedtime. Crack a joke.
Joke about it.
If you-
Yeah.
Oh
Own
my
it.
goodness. Like, Ronald Reagan had one of the greatest lines in the history of presidential debates when he was asked about his age, and he said, talking about Walter Mondale, who was an old man as well, I will not for political purposes exploit my opponent's youth and inexperience. I mean, it was an amazing line. Hilarious. There was nothing funny about this debate from either of them other than some of the stuff that happened.
We're laughing at, not laughing with, for sure. Look, so to your question is, will the headline in people's minds be Donald Trump still lies, or will it be Joe Biden doesn't look like the person I voted for last time? Donald Trump is the same guy.
Yeah.
Is Joe Biden the same guy? No, Joe Biden doesn't look like the same guy.
Yeah.
So that's a change. That's what we notice. That's what's going to stick in people's minds.
Yeah.
And it kind of matters, right? Now, look, when I asked my phone, I said, hey, SIRI, how old was Ronald Reagan when he was reelected? And he was like 70 something, right? 74, 75. Probably do it right now. Hey, Siri, how old was Ronald Reagan when he was reelected?
Ronald Reagan was 73 years old when he was reelected in 1984.
73.
This answer is from Wikipedia.
73 years old. And there was worry about his age, and then the growing, whether if it was Alzheimer's or dementia, that he experienced while president in his second term, where other people were literally doing things because he wasn't able to keep up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Joe Biden's going to experience dementia or something, but these are real questions. And that was with some decade younger.
Yeah.
So we have to stop this. Like, it's not even a fair question. It's a 100% fair question to the performance of the job. And tonight, to be blunt, it looked like he could not perform the job due to the impacts of age.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the total side note, like, wow, the teeth implants on both these guys.
Yeah, great.
Right? Like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Wish I could afford
fantastic.
those.
I know. Just fantastic looking smiles from both of these guys. Just white, straight teeth like crazy.
Rumor has it they got him on Deal Dash. So
yeah, there you go. There's one more question that came early in from Giselle that I want to get to. But before we do that, I want to ask you this question. Was the winner of the debate Robert Kennedy?
No. Not Robert Kennedy.
I don't know. We should check his numbers for his solo debate that he had planned on TikTok or whatever.
Yeah, he was having on X. Yeah. So Giselle asked the question, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Where do we go from here?
Here's my suggestion. Where you don't go is Donald Trump is going to win the election.
Yeah.
That's just not what debates do. Debates don't make someone win or lose an election. Debates do a lot of things to impact the supporters of those candidates. They can be very motivating. When Barack Obama performed terribly against Mitt Romney in their first, people freaked out, and it put pep in the step of an otherwise lackluster re-election campaign. It did a lot for that campaign. People freaked out. You don't win or lose an election based on winning or losing a debate. That's just not how it works. If Biden can turn this story around in a way that gives the people of the campaign and the people of America greater confidence in him, that will be interesting. All the things we've been saying, people could take in and still say, still going with the guy, right? That absolutely could be the
yes. And we've seen that in the chat. We've seen that in the chat tonight. People saying, yeah, he's old, but I'm voting for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
So it's not, but what I thought was going to happen tonight was Joe Biden was going to come out looking spry, looking good, sounding crisp, being older, but like, wow, hey, the old guitar still plays. That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought the Biden campaign knew how he would perform, felt great about it, and said, let's knock this pin down right now.
Yep. Let's finish this thing.
And if he got on cold medicine or something, but frankly, everything I saw out of Joe Biden tonight looked like the other things I've seen out of Joe Biden in the last year. So it didn't feel like Joe Biden wasn't Joe Biden. It didn't look like, wow, something's not right about the guy. No, that's what I've seen. That's what causes people to be concerned. I don't think people's concern is the media is talking about it. I think their concern is the few times they've seen Joe Biden in the media, they're like, hey, wow, he is old.
Yep.
His performance matches what the media and others have been talking about.
Yep. Let me ask you this question. And maybe I'll give my answer first. Because I've got one in mind. The question being, who won the debate? Who won the debate? And my answer is Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. I'm serious. I thought
I reject the premise of the question.
I thought they were fantastic. I thought this was one of the best moderated debates I've ever seen.
Wow. Was the easiest to moderate. They had the rules. They had a couple of guys that didn't
that stuck
had
by
a mute
them.
button.
Yep.
By the rules.
Yeah. But I thought no shade from CNN from me. I thought Jake and Dana did a great job. And I think Dana, sorry. And I don't watch CNN.
And they tried several times to make Trump answer the question that was asked. They're like, yeah, but we asked about this, and you have
and they did
40
that to
seconds
Biden
left.
You've got 83 seconds to answer this question. 1 second for every year you've been alive. So Doug, who won the debate?
I think the Trump voters won the debate. I think they're going to feel the best coming out of this. I'm getting texts now from people that are like, game over, man. And it could be that this text that I just received from somebody, I'll read this one. It says, rejoice, wonderful people. Out of this debate disaster will come the replacement candidate most of us have been yearning for. The younger generations will become re-engaged, and the former double haters will vote blue on to sweeping victory. So there's one theory, and I think this person speaking about Biden and not that Trump is going to drop out, which is what should have happened, right? Donald Trump should have been so buried tonight that the Republicans said he can't be our nominee, but he's locked in. So, but I think just on the merits of this, Trump supporters are gleeful about how this went.
Yeah, good answer. Dan, who won the debate?
Yeah, if it's a binary answer between which candidate performed better, it's Trump, and it makes me a little bit sick in my tummy to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep. So, hey, you know who else won the debate? the good people who chose to join us for a conversation like this. Thanks all for being a part of this. Thanks for sticking around and chatting it up to all the good friends in the chat. Tuesdays we talk about this stuff regularly in the middle of the day or middle of the morning. Maybe we should do it at 10 o'clock at night. Glad to see you all here. And if you don't, subscribe already wherever you are. Do that too. Somehow you found this. We appreciate it. And that's what I got. I'm gonna now. I don't know. I feel like I want to go eat a bowl of cereal.
I might pour another drink.
Honey Nut Cheerios. And
I feel like I won because I'm not slurring my words at the end of this. We're talking about Margaret Thatcher.
Okay, Alex says I'm going to need an Ambien, and Alex put that in a public statement. So that's.
But yeah, I would say this: if you feel discouraged and bummed out, we're gonna keep working together. We're gonna keep going. There's a lot of down ballot candidates that are really great and hopeful.
If you don't like Joe Biden, please go vote for your county commissioner.
It's the time where you lay it all on the line. We're down 42 points, but in your hearts, are you going to win? The Democratic nominee for president is going to win this election in November.
No doubt.
In my mind.
No doubt. Yes. People
are going to work to make that happen.
Yeah, I think Donald Trump outperformed Joe Biden in the sizzle. I think Joe Biden brought more steak. I think that on many measures, I think Donald Trump did a better job tonight than Joe Biden. And I have no doubt that whoever the Democratic nominee is, parenthetically Joe Biden, is going to win the election. No doubt.
Yeah. And if the job was just talking and sound bites, it'd be different. But the job is getting things done, and Joe Biden has proven that he can do that.
Had Joe Biden not performed as on fearful brand as he did, we'd be talking about how the sentences Donald Trump said did not make sense. The things he was communicating were inaccurate and lies. And the way he said them, again, was just the word salad that is Donald Trump. It's just so he is no more attractive as a candidate than he was at 7:30 Eastern time tonight. He's still unbelievably horrible.
And I would say the other big winner tonight, Bronny James.
Yes, for sure.
Son of LeBron James, drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA draft. LeBron James and his son Bronny will play together for the Lakers next year.
That's magical.
Big winner.
Real cute.
So weird. All right, so now we should all say, will Donald Trump pick a vice presidential candidate? Because he did say that his vice presidential candidate would be at the debate tonight.
He name dropped Tim Scott, but
he did name drop Tim Scott.
Tim Scott, yeah, good point. Hey, well said. I think he's going to pick a Trump. I'm sticking with that one. I think it's Trump ticket.
Keep it in the family.
I think that's how it's going to go. It's going to be like I bring that up because of the James boys playing together.
Yeah, but I am unshaken and 100% convinced that Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be Donald Trump's running mate.
Dan, do you care?
Nope.
Come on, Dan. Name a name, Dan. Come on.
I'll say Tim Scott just to be different. I think it's going to be Sarah. But
no, see, the right answer was Bronny James.
Should have brought it back.
And Alex coming back through. Alex in the chat, undeterred that it's going to be Marco Rubio.
Little Marco. All right. Well,
it's not going to be a little Marco.
Now, but now the big intrigue is not going to be who's the vice presidential candidate on the Republican side. It is who's the presidential candidate on the Democratic side. That's really what we're talking about. We didn't listen. Obviously, we started a minute after the thing ended. I didn't listen to anybody else's commentary. My guess, though, is that all the other commentators are saying the same thing. Would y'all agree?
Totally.
What's going on? Everywhere
Yeah, I
else?
had a text saying, I think Van Jones
Yep. Yeah, I was on that. text stream.
basically said the same thing. Biden needs to step down.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Van Jones.
Well, hey, everyone, hop on Tuesday, and we'll be unpacking this some more, and probably have some more things to speculate
Yeah, and if you
and
can't,
opine about.
yeah, if you can't listen live, you can always check it out on the podcast.
That's
Okay,
right.
now,
Wherever
Just-
you listen to podcasts.
that was just
Have you ever listened to a podcast? However you find those,
Yeah.
find ours.
Subscribe to this one.
I like when people say that wherever you find them. But I do know what they now mean, because I tried to listen to a podcast the other day and it was only brought to you by Spotify.
Oh.
Listening to
Didn't get
Joe Rogan now?
No, I'm not.
You were listening to Joe Rogan, weren't you, Doug?
That joke will not sit there. No, it was something about the history of 90s music and 60 songs or something. I'm like, I'd like to listen to that, but can't. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.
Take care.